you so much. All right, we should be live. What's up?
Well,
Check it out, folks. It's your boy DGL7, and as you know, I interview people, activists from all over the world. Just so you know, actually, this is someone I'm very excited to meet. Was referred by a good friend named Alan Kalinj, and I'm very impressed with him as an activist. And well, actually, I'm gonna let her introduce herself. So go ahead.
my name is Cynthia Pooler, and I've been involved in politics for many years.
Cool. All right, we're gonna find out more about that. By the way, you do, I believe, have two YouTube channels, or do you have more than that?
Um, I have a couple of YouTube channels, and I'm also doing a Rumble channel also.
Cool. Okay, so how can people find that right quick?
Okay, on YouTube, it's I'm sorry, it's Issues That Matter with Cynthia, and on Rumble, it's Cynthia's Political Playbook.
Okay, and I'll try to have the links to those things provided in the comment section below. I'll try to pin those. And once again, you could just Google her name or just go to YouTube and look up Cynthia Pooler. Her channels will pop up.
I
So,
do have one other channel, but I really haven't done a lot with it. It's called Local Everywhere with Cynthia, and I've been interviewing artists because, lesser known artists might be known in their community, and I want to give them a platform where they could be seen all over the world. So it's Local Everywhere with Cynthia.
that's cool. Okay, so we'll talk more about that. I do have some similar work myself. I don't know if you got to see that, but very cool. All right, so but we're really learning more about you today, so let's get to the
Okay.
business right here. So the thing is that everybody starts their activist journey, from different places, right? Something got what's the first thing that kind of got you involved with the activism stuff? Was it something that you awakened to a certain new reality, or also what's the first thing that you actually did significant in activism?
Um, I go back, my activism started during Watergate,
Okay,
and that was in the 70s. And then in 78, I got involved with the governor's campaign. The governor at that time was Drew Carey, and her lieutenant governor was challenging him, to be the new governor. And that's when I started doing activism. And then in 84, I ran for the New York State legislature myself.
okay. Was there a certain you know uh, topic that really more interested you? Maybe it was government accountability. Maybe it was right, because that running for office is kind of like broad, and the Watergate maybe was fighting corruption, right? So what was the
Hmm.
kind of the first topic that really kind of like made you aware, or that you got,
I was,
yeah.
I just always loved politics, and I wanted to throw my hat in the ring.
Okay, all right, cool.
Right.
All right, so the
Mm.
next question is the thing is that some people say, like, like AOC says that she's a socialist. We look at other people. Some people might say that they're a conservative, right? Some people say that
Right.
they don't have to necessarily go on this socialism capitalism dichotomy, right? There's other political ideologies that exist. Would you say that do you have certain political ideology that you follow?
Not, I'm not really strident in a particular ideology. I look at the candidates and I listen to what they say, and I base my judgment on what I hear. As far as like being a Democrat or a Republican or a Libertarian or a Green, I go by the person, not the party.
I do that myself, so I like that a lot. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next. The thing is that there's people sometimes, if they're an ideology or not an ideology, right? Sometimes it helps to really understand because you make a great point. One Republican says this thing, another Republican says that thing. There could be a very wide variance, so it doesn't really mean so much. But one thing that can help us to really kind of like understand you better is who's been influential to your political thought. Maybe, it could be several people, but who are the really influences to yourself?
Well, actually, over the years, you know, I've been involved in politics. I've run for myself. I've helped on campaigns. I've listened to campaigns on, the president and Senate races. So there's not one particular person who I can say really influenced me that I could think of.
It could be a couple of people. It doesn't have to be just one.
That's true. Um, over the years, back in '84 when I ran for the New York State Legislature, and Geraldine Ferraro was at the top of the ticket. And you know, I'm kind of partial to New York politics, and you know, um, there's nobody, there's nobody in particular I could say I'm overwhelmingly enthused about.
That's a good answer actually. I get that, right? There's a lot of times people are built up to be more than they are. There's some kind of marketing, like gimmicking going on, and that's a pretty solid answer. So I appreciate that. All right, so let's move on to within the activist series. There's a lot of people that I interview with different, levels of experience, different levels of achievement, just to help my audience really understand a little bit better about yourself. What are you the most proud of accomplishing? It could be a couple things. What are you most proud of accomplishing as an activist
As an activist,
or candidate? It's all related, but
okay,
yeah, what have you
I
achieved?
really, I really love doing my YouTube channels. To me, that's really great. Um, Basically, I've been doing a lot of interviews with Scott Ritter, who,
I noticed that.
who because back in the early 2000s, he was the only person that came out and said that there were no
Weapons of
weapons
mass
of mass.
destruction.
Yep. And that was pretty gutsy on his part.
It was.
And he lives not too far from me. He lives maybe 15, 20 minutes from me. And I really admire his gumption and the fact that he doesn't back down.
We'll have some interesting things to talk about that later, but that's good to know. All right. So you're most proud of accomplishing that. That's interesting. Okay. Well, wait till we'll talk
Yeah.
about that in a moment. All right. But let's get to the first half is
So,
really getting to
Can
understand
I
you.
can I say
Oh
can I
yeah,
say
please.
the
Absolutely.
reason why I like YouTube so much is uh, you could you could be you could influence a lot of people if you have a good following. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be powerful. All you have to do is have a message, have the gumption enough to talk about that message on 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 YouTube, and people will come and listen and make comments and subscribe to your channel. And I really like that. With my Issues That Matter channel, I have 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that probably like at the end, right? There are some things I want to ask about that, but let's move on to the right. I do want to stay to the format of this interview, and then at the end we're gonna ask about more of the personal or the involved stuff. So just so you know, if you found these questions interesting, you could see how over 100 different activists have answered these questions, and just interesting, right? So the next question is now we're gonna actually learn more about the activism part. So what do you think are the most effective things that activists can do?
Oh, that's a tough question. Everybody has their own set of getting things done, but it's it's a question of never giving up, just doing stuff and trying to make a difference.
Okay. The next question is that some people, a lot of times when they are, seeking for help, a lot of my channel is really dedicated towards activists in specific, and a lot of times people are dealing with certain problems that they're not really being addressed, so they turn to activism. So they may join an organization to try to get some help, and then sometimes they're frustrated because the organization isn't really doing what isn't really helping them. Sometimes also just having been also run organizations myself, sometimes people come in and they want to actually take the organization and completely change the direction of what's going on, or right. So I could see it from both angles. What do you think are the best practices for activist organizations to engage in to make sure they're addressing individual members' needs, but not going off, not losing track of their mission.
Over the years, I've been involved with several organizations, and I'm not too thrilled with organizations because there's a lot of infighting, and usually nothing gets accomplished. So, from my perspective, I like to do things by myself and get my message out. Because if I'm with a group of people and there's going to be an argument over, a specific way of addressing an issue, I can't be bothered with all that stuff.
Right, I understand. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Let's see. Any other questions really, as in terms of the activist online activist interview? Mm, I could relate in a lot of different ways, right? So I think that was super quick. Just so you know, and I appreciate the fact that you were able to be concise about your answers. Now I'm going to ask you some other questions related to. So one of the things that we talked about before the show was actually you have a very interesting project going on. I think it's called like National Candidate Appreciation Day or something like that. Can you tell me a little bit about
Recognition
that?
Day. Recognition Day. But before I talk about that, I do have to say one thing. As you can see by the color of my hair, I'm a baby boomer, and there are many people in my age group who shy away from technology. So I want to show people who shy away from technology that it can be used to your advantage. And and not only am I talking about a specific issue, but I'm showing them the new technology is good besides. And
Okay.
I think that's it. That could be inspiring to people.
So what technologies maybe in particular are you talking about? Are you talking about like the YouTube and the social media,
Yes.
or okay?
Yep. Yep. I
Talk.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm not completely well versed on everything, but I know a little bit to navigate to get my message across and to interview people.
Okay. So talking about that, once again, um, do you have? I know you'll be promoting your different projects, and your interviews and stuff like that. But one of the things that you have is your National Candidate Recognition Day, or I'm not sure exactly what. Do you have a Facebook group maybe to promote that, or how can
Yes.
people? Okay.
Yes, it's if people go on Facebook and they type in National Candidate Recognition Day, they could join the group. And what I'm hoping is because a lot of down ticket candidates, if they do not win, they're forgotten the next day. They might be brilliant, they might have wonderful ideas, and if I could give them a platform where they could keep their ideas going, I think that might be helpful.
That's very interesting. All right. So where can people? We already mentioned some of your YouTube pages. Do you have any other particular social media or maybe a website that where people can check out your stuff?
Um, yes, Digital Cynthia, um, www.digitalcynthia.com.
Okay, that's cool. All right, and now that people, one of the things that you said to look for was this National Candidate Recognition Day. What day is that? And is the first one going to be popping up? Maybe I think it's in the summer or something. When is the?
Yes, it's the first Saturday in August. It will, this one will be the first one, and it'll be the first Saturday in August each year.
Okay, and then what are you going to do? Like maybe host a discussion panel where candidates can talk about different ideas and stuff.
Well, I came up with this idea recently, so it would be up to the candidates who joined the group to decide what they would like to see. You know, I I I came up with the idea, but I don't have all the answers. Collectively, the people that joined the group will have the answers.
Very cool. Okay. Just so you know, just to provide a little bit of a perspective of some of the work that I've done that's similar, I actually got the list of every single federal candidate running for office in the 22 and 24 election cycles. I've also ran for 2021, I had the only third party independent candidate forums here in New York City. I had discussions and debates and discussion panels, and I'm actually involved in doing this right now. I have more interviews with candidates and activists than any other YouTuber. And just so a lot of the candidates, unfortunately, a lot of them haven't really had the. There's a couple here and there, like mostly the perennial candidates who run like every year, but a lot of the candidates, they either came from an executive background or they thought it would be cool to run, and then you never hear from them again. So a lot of times I really focus on really more the activists and more the activism, because people that are really passionate about a certain idea or something like that, that's really who I end up working with more and who stays in the fight, versus other people who thought it would be nice to actually be an elected official. It would be nice to, sometimes even people ask me to be their campaign managers, things like that, and they say, I want to run for a position that's has a salary, things like that. And those people, a lot of times they don't really stick with it, right? So I have a lot of ongoing projects going on, and some of the candidates I still have relationships with. I also have a candidate of the year every year. I know that before you had Jeff Young on your show. He was actually my candidate of the year for, and I think this year was Susan Busher-Lahaki. But there's a lot of different things I think we could work together on. I'm very excited about your position in Albany.
Okay.
The New York State Capitol. That's actually, I would like to do things statewide. So there's a lot of other issues, such as I took the 2 longest wrongfully incarcerated men in New York State history to Kamala Harris's office. And just so you know, at a state level, because there's state prisons, there's federal prisons, we're trying to actually create a wrongful incarceration compensation plan for New York State to match actually the best wrongful incarceration compensation plan which exists in Texas. So you could be a key ally for some of these particular projects. So I'm very excited.
All I have to do is walk down the street when they're in session, and if you know a particular assemblyman or woman or senator, I could just walk down and give them the information that you have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of the senators and the assembly people, they know me already. I already have every single one of them on my mailing list. A lot of them some of them are still on it, right? And I'm actually in communications with a lot of them. Also, have you ever heard of something called county committee?
I know about committees, yes.
You know about county committee, yes?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the thing is that, it's an important position for actually determining the state leadership. People that are actually running for office, a lot of times they wonder why the incumbents have access to so much money. When a campaign ends, I think the RFK campaign had millions of dollars left over. Where's that money going to go? So the party leadership, right? One thing, right? It could be used for a future run for that candidate, or sometimes it can get recycled back into the party, and the party leadership gets to control that. County committee also determines the judges, which is very important for electoral reform, criminal justice reform. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You talk about committees, and a lot of people do not know about committees. They don't understand how it works. And committees, for the most part, decide who's going to be the viable candidate. And that should not be. That should not be. And people don't understand that. They don't know that. And, in any particular area, if a committee is going to decide, well, this gal or guy is going to be the candidate, and screw everybody else, then the media doesn't follow them. The money is not there for them. So I think the committees are major obstacles
You're absolutely right.
To a true democracy.
And to try to upend that, we've actually made the voter database, which is already the voter information is free in New York State, just so you know. I think in Pennsylvania it's $20. I think in California it's like $20,000, which is insane. But even though the information is free, if you try to load that in your database, there's like over 8 million, I think, records. of people that are registered voters, right? I think that New York City has 8 million people alone, but remember, a lot of people don't vote. But I think there's millions of records, and this will crash a lot of databases through something called Rep My Block. We actually have an open source data technology that allows people to actually get the voter database. A lot of people want to have these rallies. I'm not saying the rallies are all bad, but the thing is that maybe 10% of those people vote. The thing is that when the candidates want to win, they go door to door, people that actually vote, and then they actually write. So we're actually trying to really, overturn exactly what you talked about. The county committee, actually the party leadership, playing games, deciding who gets to be the viable candidate. You're absolutely right, and I'm deep in that system, trying to overturn that and open source this technology. A lot of these things are actually being suppressed by, and we're going to talk about something else. We're going to get into a little bit of rocky roads right here. Let's get to this. Sorry about that, Cynthia. Yeah, but I am a fan of your work. Just want to get this out straight up and down. But you did say that your channel has received 10,000 subscribers. I looked at your videos, and actually most of your videos are like mine, right? Getting maybe 50, 100 views. But then all the ones with Scott Ritter are the ones that really push the numbers really high. So the thing is that when you got the 10,000 viewers, would you say it's really because of Scott Ritter?
Absolutely.
Yes, I saw that and I recognized that. Now, just so you know.
And the thing with Scott is,
Yeah.
when we first started doing interviews, the numbers gradually got higher and higher. The best interview I did with Scott, I received 105,000 views.
Yeah, talking about him in Russia, right? Like his.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay,
Correct.
I saw that, right? I did the research, right? I took a look. I actually have over 1,000 videos on my channel. It's hard to actually look at all my body of work. I don't know if you've gotten to see any of it, but we're about to hit the weird stuff right now. So let's get to it, right? Sorry, I don't really like to pop up on people, but let's see what's up. So the thing is that you're aware of Scott Ritter's his controversy regarding the sex charges, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what do you think about that?
You know, Scott is, to me, is my friend.
I understand.
He's a very noble guy,
Okay,
and and
possible.
because of the things he talks about, not only with me, but with other YouTubers and podcasters, he has the guts to say stuff that a normal person might think, but they will not talk about it. So as far as him, you know, no matter what, no nobody in this world is perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. I'm sure Scott's not perfect. But with what he's saying, I believe you have to overlook the controversies and listen to him and know it's coming from his heart.
Okay, so I agree with you. Look, I have quite a different take on this, right? So the thing is that I know, and I know that also Scott Ritter is also responsible for a lot of the success of your channel. So I'm not really it's good and bad. So like this is just what I want to throw by your direction. Now the thing is that remember that Scott Ritter got a lot of and I do respect him taking on the narrative of the weapons of mass destruction, and I really respect him for that. So I just want to put that out there, right, for what's going to come up next. But the thing is that after that, right, after his the charges that he was accused of, he kind of went silent for a while, right? Like it wasn't really being promoted. But nowadays, if you look up Scott Ritter, you can see him on many channels being promoted to talk
Right.
about the issue, right? Now, just so you know, I'm much older than I look. I'm actually like almost 50, right? So the thing is that
Okay.
I was born in the 70s, and the thing is
Okay.
that I can understand where people might say, and maybe he was targeted because of his position on weapons of mass destruction. And I could see where people would believe that, right? JFK, things like that, right? We know that U.S. was possibly trying to assassinate Castro.
Correct.
We know that sometimes the U.S. will play dirty, right? So it's possible he was targeted there. But this is actually what I want to say about Scott Ritter, just so you know. I was actually. Have you heard of something called the People's Party?
I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it.
Okay, well, just so you know, I was the New York State coordinator for the People's Party. The People's Party had, support from a lot of celebrities. Cornel West, right? What's his name? There's that Chris Hedges, right? There was a lot of famous people. Jimmy Dore, who was supporting the People's Party. So the thing is that I don't know how much you know about well, you're here in New York State. Just so you know, on the voter registration forms, I may actually be sitting on one. Wait, I have one right here. And you mentioned the Greens and Libertarian parties earlier, right? On the registration forms right here, you can see that there's I wish to enroll in a political party right here, right? You can see that actually. You see the Democrat, you see the Republicans, you see the conservative, working families, and other, right? So you can see that there are third parties that are actually on the ballot that are on here, right? The Greens and Libertarians did not qualify, and that's another reason why to join county committee to try to overturn those rules. But the thing is
But you
that
know why they're not on that form, right?
I'm sorry, what's
Because
that?
you know why they're not on the form, because Andrew Cuomo,
Yeah,
up
up
the
the level,
signatures
absolutely.
uh, from 15,000 signatures to get on the ballot to 45,000 signatures to get on the ballot. So I I'm friendly with Diane Sayre, who ran against
We're going to talk
as
about that in a minute. Yeah, but Diane Sawyer did qualify. Once again, props to her on for doing that, right? For getting the
yes,
45,000 signatures.
but
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 whew,
but
we're about to get into the
but
rocky territory right now.
okay,
But go ahead.
but when I mentioned to Howie Hawkins that Diane qualified for the ballot, he was so angry and so upset. He said, "Oh, she just got names out of a phone book." I mean,
No.
he didn't even want to recognize that she worked hard to get those signatures.
Yeah, I've been around. Just so you know, I actually endorsed Diane Sawyer, but actually I've taken that back. It's been very disturbing. Let me tell you why. Yeah, I'm sorry to say. Actually, we're actually at serious odds right now, and I know that you
Okay.
actually. Yeah. So just so you know, I was actually leading the People's Party here in New York. And the thing is that with all the celebrity support, there was also a Medical Freedom Party, just so you know, that ran several state candidates for assembly. I don't know if you're aware of them. Did you hear of the Medical Freedom Party?
No.
Oh, no? Okay, I actually know candidates that were running for state assembly. They had 6 candidates running, which is actually quite successful, while the People's Party had 0. The thing is that the People's Party, we tried, and I have other state party coordinators who actually will attest, who have also testified to this on camera on my other coordinators, because they got rid of me. Now the reason why I'm active is because I experienced a lot of violence growing up because of the aftermath of the Korean War. A lot of people don't think that Koreans suffered. They don't think that Koreans actually had any difficulties that we went through. And the fact of the matter is that, I ran away from home at the age of 16. And the fact of the matter is that being anti-war has always been a very core part of my activism, and I take care of all the people, and I could show you my body working with the disabled, right? People whose problems are also not really looked at. We've helped introduce legislation for the deaf-blind. I work with the wrongfully living poor and on the streets. I had to live with people that were formerly incarcerated. I helped the wrongfully incarcerated, right? If you've done the crime, you got to do your time. I've also helped people that are, people living in public housing, people that are in shelters. And I have all of this documented. So just come back to Scott Ritter and Diane Sayre, right? I'm sorry to say. The thing is that, look, Scott Ritter, and once again, I do believe that he sacrificed, but what happened was that Nick Brana, who was actually the national chair of the People's Party, actually stole hundreds of thousands of dollars and was engaged in sexual abuse. He actually had to resign, and this has all been documented. I can actually send you the things about that. So what happened was, at this time, right, Scott Ritter was not really a big player in the game, but in order to and I'm sorry to say, I believe that Scott Ritter is being used, right? And everybody deserves a second chance, right? Like you said, right? I'm not against that. But the thing is that, right, in order to normalize the sexual abuse of Nick Brana, what happened was that they put Scott Ritter into the anti-war movement. And let me tell you what makes me so mad about this and why I'm at war with Diane Sayre now. The fact that
Okay.
and right, I still, once again, she did, and I was there with her, helping her get the signatures. So I'm telling you right now, the 45,000 signatures, how you're wrong, those are legit. She put in a lot of work, respect to her for that. But the fact
Well,
of the
you
matter,
know,
just to get to
I
this is the
I
big
had
point right here. Okay, I'm a victim of war, and a lot of people don't recognize this because the thing is that the Korean War was in the 50s. That's true. But the fact of the matter is that just we see that slavery had a lot of impact on black people today, right? As in terms of right, the Korean War had a lot of effects on me, right? And we take a look at like the way that a lot of Arabic people are actually involved with rapes that are going on in Europe and stuff like that. Those same hardships. There was a lot of rapes that happened to Koreans during the Japanese occupation, right, of Korea, and then that was followed by bombs dropped on us like crazy by the United States, right? After we're coming out from basically a Holocaust, right? We came right out of the Holocaust into bombs being dropped on us like crazy. Now, right, and then our people starved like Ethiopia, and then we didn't really get help. So the fact of the matter is that I'm not saying that Scott Ritter can't be a part of the anti-war movement. But where's the war victims? It's like having a bunch of people that's having like saying that we want to do a criminal justice reform event, but we're going to exclude black people. Where are the war victims? And I'm including Russians and Ukrainians in this. It's not just a racial thing, right? Actual war victims whose whole entire lives have been rearranged and destroyed, like myself, have been pushed aside to put in. I'm not saying Scott Ritter doesn't get a voice in this, right? But because of Nick Brana and because of people, the celebrities at the People's Party, right? They want to make, so that's why Scott Ritter's being pushed on, what's his name, Danny Haifong, and being pushed on all these shows. But an actual war victim like myself, who's done historical level work, who's actually had presidential forums, you can look at my body of work, who's introduced legislation. I've been suppressed and blackballed, and Diane Sayre, right? I'm sorry to say, once again, I appreciate her hard work, and I'm going to say those 45,000 signatures are legit, okay? And the Green Party and the Libertarians, they didn't make it on the ballot. By the way, the Conservative Party also, and the Working Families, right, they're a fusion party, but they are on here, right, but they are not being talked about, right? And just so you know, the Green Party, just so you know, they also have similar problems. Because the thing is that Jill Stein, she's a celebrity, and the thing is that right now I have, from Green Party Alaska, right, Josh Haley, a elected guy from, and who's an Inuit, right, indigenous, was actually... Jill Stein says she cares about indigenous people, says she cares about, right, the Palestinians. I've been in the Green Party since the 90s because I went to Democrats and asked for help with stuff. Then they won the chamber and voted different, so I saw the need for a third party. So I actually went to help, but actually my work has been suppressed, even though I've been in the Green Party and done the work. I'm not the only one. Josh Haley was kicked out because Green Party Alaska had a vote, oh my God, and asked for Jesse Ventura to be on the ballot. Not only that, a disabled guy ran for president. He's also spoken out. Another woman who ran for Green Party president, Susan Bushelahaki, called out the hypocrisy. A former Harvard PhD guy named Emmanuel Pastryk all complained about how once again the party leadership and the media work together to actually control who gets access and who doesn't. So. Correct. Diane Sayre had that event called Rage Against the War Machine. I have actually testimony from, what's his name, Supreme from Wu-Tang, who was supposed to be there, who called out the hypocrisy, who called out the lies and the bullcrap. I don't know if you know that Supreme from Wu-Tang pulled out of the event after being contacted by myself. So, look, once again, I appreciate what Diane Sayre's done. She's done a lot of hard work. But she also had Nick Brana, who, once again, you could look it up, has been accused of sexual assault. She actually invited him to her World Forum stuff with and you know what? I don't think it's all Diane Sayre because I think Diane likes me, right? Yeah, it's Helga LaRouche from Europe. She decided to go with, and I'm not saying she's all bad, right? I'm sure she does a lot of decent work, but she decided to go with Josh Hinkle, Jackson Hinkle. She decided to go with Nick Brana because she saw the numbers of people that were the money and the access and the big numbers that they were able to pull in, and rather than build with the actual grassroots person like myself, they decided to sell me out, to sell out other indigenous people, to sell out people with disabilities, right, for the access to the celebrities that could make them a star, that could get them. So when you look at my body of work and ask yourself why my numbers are so low and why I'm blackballed from Revolutionary Blackout, why Scott Ritter, Diane Sayre never come on my show, and why I was actually prevented from going to Rage Against the War Machine. I'm
and
sorry
y-
if you did.
and
Go ahead.
and also Jose Vega. Have you talked to him?
Yeah, I'm really upset. The thing is, like Jose Vega, I was talking to him before because the Assange movement, right? The thing, and I'm not the only victim, by the way. Dak Rouleau, I don't know if you ever heard the name. He actually went to all the presidential candidates in the 2020 election cycle and asked them if they would actually, where they stood on Assange. Jimmy Dore tried to steal his work, as well as Graham Elwood tried to steal his work. This is all documented. I have it on my channel. I'm going to send you the link to the video afterwards. And the thing is that they tried to steal his work and they got rid of him. People that get too much done, I've asked, and you'll see in the video, I have more candidate interviews than any other person in the nation, and I asked all of them if they would support the freedom of Assange. People that actually do the work, they get rid of us. I swear to God. People that actually do the work to actually talk to candidates and to push the issue, it's all the people that are celebrity based, that are, and I'm sorry, it's the same thing in the Puff Daddy world. People that are, there's gatekeepers in this organization, right, that are actually keeping people who've been victims of war like myself from being involved, and that way they don't really look too close at certain things. They're willing to make certain compromises, and I'm sorry to say that there's actually is hurting the movement in a great way. For example, the Asian American community, there's something called the Asian American curriculum. I don't know, you're a supporter of Palestine, I'm assuming, right?
Say that again.
Are you a supporter of Palestine?
I think what Israel is doing is horrible.
Okay, so let's take a look right here, right? So the thing is that when you take a look at the Asian American curriculum, we know that a guy named Edward Said, who's actually Palestinian American, came up with the term Orientalism, but they've been deleted out. They've been completely erased from the history of the Asian American curriculum that's mandatory in New York City schools today. But when I try to bring this issue up, there's no addressment of it. They only want to have the celebrity-based, look at the People's Party of New York State, right? The People's Party that was nationwide, 14 separate states, this is all documented, called out the theft and abuse that was happening from people at the top. The celebrities are collecting the money, and the people that are doing the work, you don't get to hear about us. They say they're for the working class, say they're for about us. I have people all over the country that are calling out the abuse that's going on from party leadership that uses celebrities to get people to look the other way. Meanwhile, wait till you see my body of work and ask yourself why they cannot talk about me or address anything that I talk about. It's God's truth.
Okay.
So we're going to get to just know each other. So once again, Jose Vega, the thing is that he was actually raised up with the Rage Against the War Machine, where he stood on the same stage with Nick Brana, and they already knew about all the topics. I have many videos about Jose Vega. They're actually, just so you know, they copied my whole style. They're actually trying to actually replace actual grassroots activists, and I respect Vega's work. I'm saying like some of the things that he did, confronting people was. But when you look at the timeline and see that I did the same exact type of work with the same type of music behind it, he copied my whole style, and he is addressing some good things, but they're there to make sure that someone like myself cannot be. The gatekeepers decide who gets to be there and who doesn't. And I guarantee you, Jose Vega, look up what happened with Nick Brana. Ask Jose Vega to say anything about Nick Brana. He can't do it. Because the gatekeepers, once again, Jimmy Dore, will cut off their access if he dares to call out certain people that's with the party elites. One of the longest wrongfully incarcerated men in United States history, with a direct tie to Mumia Abu-Jamal named Mutio Jamu Sebru, confronted Cornel West on my behalf directly. I had a protest with the disabled, the wrongfully incarcerated. Reverend Keith Gadsden showed up. Tenant Association presidents from public housing came out to support me when I was protesting Cornel West. The whole press worked together to silence, to suppress all information about this particular protest. Once again, Scott Ritter, I'm talking to you. I hope you see this. I'm not saying that you're all bad, right? But once again, actual war victims like myself, ask yourself, who put you in that spot, and where's the war victims at? Maybe you're a victim too. Look, you have these very serious charges against you. You're endangering the war movement. I'm not saying, right, yeah, they're putting you there. You're being used to normalize the sexual abuse of Nick Brana, I'm sorry to say, who became the ballot access director for RFK, even despite the fact that he was told about what's going on. It's very disappointing. Tulsi Gabbard, who's going to be the new director of national intelligence, I'm calling you out right now. You know that I actually led, and I can show you all the evidence. I led protests at New York Times. I led protests at CNN. I was Good Morning America, leading the protests, kicking ass for you, Tulsi, as an Asian American. You've never really addressed Asian American discrimination, and I'm sorry about that, Tulsi. I know you face a lot of discrimination being half white in Hawaii. I'm sorry about what Asian Americans do to people like yourself, but I'm telling you right now, I'm a victim of war. I'm a Korean American, and showing up at the Rage Against the War Machine at that event where it was just a bunch of celebrities who is not actually affected by war like myself, it's disgusting and wrong.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me say that.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
But I think that both, actually, I'll give you a good insight into this. It was on a Saturday morning. It was 2.5 years ago. It was during the summer. I got a phone call from somebody I didn't know. And she told me that somebody in the western part of the state heard an interview that I had done with Scott Ritter, and she asked me if I wanted to do something with Diane. So I introduced Diane to Scott Ritter, and
Oh, they already know each other. They've known each other for a long time.
no, just 2 years
Oh, oh, okay. Is that how they first met each other? Interesting. Okay.
through me.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yep.
Oh, okay. Well, he started to really take off after that time, and he started to really get picked up by a lot of other groups like Danny Haifong, the Asian American. Why doesn't he have an Asian American like myself on? I've done legendary work with the black community. I can show you that right there. I've reached out to him many times because the Jimmy Dore network that actually broke up I was the first person in the country to do a Force the Vote at AOC's office. They immediately tried to switch in Jackson Hinkle at the DC event where I actually confronted Nick Brana. I even went to the Supreme Court. I have this, and I got a receipt where I asked for justice for Tulsi Gabbard about the unfair way that she was treating during the campaign cycle. It's very disappointing to see her, abandoning all her followers that actually joined the People's Party. And I'm going to actually say like Otis Buckley, like Jim from Boston, right? We were actually, me and James were actually with Tulsi Gabbard in New Hampshire doing campaigning for her, but she abandoned all of us for the juicy clout that Jimmy Dore has. So, Scott Ritter was shown on the Jimmy Dore show, and I have all their seats. So once again, I'm not saying Diane Sayre is all bad or all good, but she is willing to, and I have this also documented. I've sent emails to every single consulate and more, right, of Asia and Africa, telling them if this is how they treat war victims like myself, then how can you trust someone like Diane Sayre or the anti-war movement like Rage Against the War Machine when they take war victims like myself who have a very established body of work and they throw me in the garbage? Yeah, okay. And look at the way they teach the indigenous people at home, like Josh Hadley. Wait till you see the interview with him. I'm telling you right now, Diane Sayre, I hope you watch this. I'm surprised that they didn't get at you before. But Diane Sayre, you're not all bad. I went with you to, what's his name? There was Roosevelt, right? I went to FDR's home with you. And I actually bought a present for the ambassador of Malawi who was there with us, with my own money. And I beg on the street because I've been blackballed by Revolutionary Blackout, by Jimmy Dore, by Convo Cox, by that whole entire Danny Haifong. They're blackballing me to make sure, right? I think right now I have like a little bit over 1,000 subscribers because I've been blackballed. Because all the people that's made it in the Breakthrough News, PSL, right? Jill Stein, right? They're all working together to blackball me and many candidates that I'm actually going to introduce you to.
Actually, the day that you went to the Roosevelt thing with Diane Sayre,
I did.
Did you go to the Mexican restaurant that afternoon?
I think they made a couple trips, but I didn't go to the restaurant. Oh, wait, I did. I do remember.
Hey.
I was there. Were you there?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I do remember that. We went afterwards. I was there, I swear to God. You didn't get a business card from me? I always hand the business cards like crazy. You didn't.
No, I didn't get a card from you.
Look, I still like Diane, right? Yeah, she had my endorsement, and I feel really bad. Look, I don't think Diane was the one who got rid of me, because she kept trying to tell her crew to like work with me. I think that Daniel Burke, who has a relationship with you know who Dan Burke is?
No.
No, okay, Daniel Burke. Okay, he ran for he went to Harvard. He ran for Senate in New Jersey, right? Diane Sayre was treating me nice. And yeah, I do remember the you know there was we were sitting outside. Remember? We
I don't remember.
I do remember the Mexican restaurant because we were sitting outside. I do remember. Yeah, I was there, and I endorsed Diane Sayre, and I think that Helga LaRouche, and I understand, right? Diane Sayre used to be the assistant for LaRouche, and Helga is the wife, and I understand that Helga has a lot of pull in the organization, and I think that Daniel Burke told Diane Sayre not to work with, not Diane, but I think he got to Helga, right? There's all these internal politics going on. He got to Helga and said, you know what? I'm going to introduce this guy, Jackson Hinkle. We're going to get Jimmy Dore on. This guy, DGL7, who was actually the New York State coordinator for the People's Party. Washington State, 14 states pulled out, right? Why hasn't the People's Party run a single candidate except for Cornel West? Shouldn't they have, with all the hundreds of thousands of dollars they collected? Where did all the money go? Why did the entire board, over half the board, have to be gotten rid of? And that wasn't an elected board. That was Nick Brana's hand-picked board. They got rid of him for the sexual abuse charges. It's
Let
disgusting.
me ask you this question.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Cornel West, he decided to run as a Green for president.
After running People's Party, right, then he found out that there was no... The thing is that I already have this documented in the video with myself and the Supreme, and also Mark Mixon, who was the West Coast, coordinator, and he followed, just so you know, a guy named a U.S. Military war veteran named, did I forget his name? Crap, I can't believe he was one of my best friends. I actually put, it's really heartbreaking that I forgot his name, but his face is so clear to me. He's an American war veteran. He was a big Tulsi fan. Yeah? Because the Tulsi people were so disgusted about the way the Democrats treated Tulsi that we joined the People's Party like crazy. But we were abandoned. And we tried to fight for Assange to get on the People's Party platform. That was actually interfered with. And Katie Halper was part of the cover-up. Now they got her leading the Assange stuff when she deliberately got in the way of Assange activism. Are you crazy? You know what I mean? And the people who run the People's Party were more Bernie people. And they really, because Bernie didn't take as strong as a stance in supporting Assange, they decided to abandon Assange. But the Tulsi supporters were hardcore for Assange, and we were wiped out of the organization, out of the People's Party, and to be punished for asking for justice for Assange. It's ridiculous. This is all documented. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like I said a while back, as far as a structure, I like to work by myself. I like to do my interviews and not get sucked up into any other organization. I like Scott, I like Diane, I like Alan, and I call on them a lot to do interviews with me. And maybe if you introduce me to people who I feel could add to the dialogue, but as far
Absolutely.
as far as getting sucked up into organizational crap, that's not for me.
I like Diane, I like Jose Vega. I think they're actually quite effective, and I would like to work with y'all, but stop blackballing me for those gatekeepers. Other than that, we could be cool, but I'm turning you on to all the people that I talked about, right? The state leaders from Washington State, Supreme, right? Josh Haley from the Green Party Alaska. I'm introduced to a whole bunch of people. And, if you want to actually get involved with some of the actual, we have some New York City stuff coming up, maybe some New York State stuff as well. But our elections are going on down here. I'd love to get you involved more, yeah. So if you want to meet with some of these candidates, your perspective and your knowledge, I think it would be a great team up here in New York. So once again, Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's going to be interesting to see the mayor's race
Absolutely.
because uh, I don't think that part of the establishment likes Adams that much. I think they want to get rid of him, and it's going to be an interesting to see if Cuomo jumps into the mayor's race or he holds back and decides to run against Hochul for his fourth term as governor.
Wow, that is possible. People have been talking about that. People seem to like Cuomo because they say he's middle of the road, but I'm sorry to say that Cuomo, we know, you probably already know this, is responsible for a lot of deaths at the nursing homes. And actually, the disabilities crew that I work with say home care, not nursing homes, because a lot of people are actually shoveled into the nursing homes against their own will to be served by business contractors who are working with the government, who's just sweeping up so much corrupt money. Yeah, you're right. I have heard about Cuomo possibly running, right? But once again, Brad Lander has actually already got like millions of dollars in the bank. Um, we know that Adams has a close relationship with Al Sharpton, right? Who's actually considered to be a kingmaker in a lot of ways. We know that Al Sharpton has a lot of problems as well. So the Puff Daddy stuff, the key to the city. Oh my goodness! So we're gonna see. I think Brad Lander is trying to get close to Al Sharpton. They were there at the Thanksgiving event, and Al Sharpton wasn't there. By the way, we were actually going to go to the Al Sharpton National Action Network with his MAGA hats to try to once again get the communities together, right? A lot of times the people at the top, right, party leadership, they have their own bent, but a lot of people I work with, Democrats, Independents, Greens, Libertarians, conservatives, all of them, and the people on the ground say the same thing, but they get convinced by the leadership not to work together. Right? Why? There's a lot of things that we could agree on that are ridiculous. So I'm excited to make that a lot of things that you said I agree with, and I have a lot of similar viewpoints myself.
So, as far as, like I said, I'm not an organizational person. You know, I'll look at an issue, and if I know somebody who can articulate something on my YouTube channel, well, I'll call them up and I'll say, "Can you do a show with me?" That's how I that's how I operate.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So just so you know, we recently had a discussion panel with some candidates. I've actually had a bunch of discussion panels with candidates on a bunch of topics, including at a national level. But we just had one with the longest wrongfully incarcerated man in New York State history, named Otis Johnson. We also had a guy called Asian Serpico. His name's Stephen Lee. He actually caused a re-examination of the NAP Commission and actually has put me in direct contact with Serpico, where we talked about his ideas for police reform. Stephen Lee also attended, and so did a current police officer named John Riccatone, who's actually currently on the school board. And we actually met with candidates Darren Aquino, and I think Javin Terrell Ross was also like a part of that. We have another discussion panel coming up on February 2nd on education reform for specifically.
When was the last time you spoke to Frank Serpico?
Well, okay, the thing is that Frank doesn't really put himself to everybody, but I talk him through Stephen Lee. Stephen Lee has a relationship with him, so Serpico doesn't like to put himself out there to everybody, but I can actually show the discussions that Steve has had with Serpico directly. And Serpico does not actually, he says police can't police themselves. And this is true in many aspects, right? The thing is that you need to have an outside agency, and right, when police officers do good, celebrate them. When they do bad things, they should be held accountable. I'm not saying all police are bad. But, that idea that people cannot, let's take a look at the, here in New York City, I don't know about where you are in Albany, but there's something called the Civilian Review Board. But if you look at the Civilian Review Board, a lot of the people are actually governmental appointees. There's very little civilian about it. So think about it. If I'm the mayor, right, and then something happens to the police department, and I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, right, but the thing is that if that news gets out that something went wrong in the police department, it happened under my watch. So I have an interest in making sure that story gets squashed, whether right or wrong. I might even say I want to fix that issue, but I'm going to try to squash that and not let that get out. So the Civilian Review Board is actually interested not in actually helping civilians get actual justice, but in covering up the controversy for the elected officials.
Do you come up to Albany at all?
I do actually. I have actually videos of myself going to Albany to fight for legislation on several topics, and from opposing vaccine mandates to fighting for legislation for the wrongfully incarcerated. I've been there several times, and actually yourself is I admire your work. The fact that you've run for office before. There's a beautiful picture of the news article with you actually in the chamber with all the voting machines. I think I got the picture from that. I know that you're someone who goes above and beyond to try to really interact with people in the chambers. So I'm very excited to meet you, just so you know.
Okay, so if you come up, I don't know if Kathy Hochul is going to close the Capitol for the state of the state, but if you come up that day, I would really like to meet you.
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna actually email you some of my work. I know the videos are kind of a little involved, but you're gonna get to see them. And absolutely, I'd like to. I think we're gonna have a working relationship. And just so you know, I have some. I just got a call earlier. Remember, I was on the phone earlier. Actually, on January 6th, we're having another event with the conservative candidates. Actually, tomorrow we're getting a whole bunch of candidates together, and I will actually talk about your program, and I'll actually film that. So I actually have a newsletter with over 2,000 people that are subscribed. So I will actually, and on that newsletter is every single candidate who ran for office in the 22 and 24 election cycle, and more. So you probably met Jeff Young. You probably like him as much as I do.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, my candidate of the year, exactly. So.
And I met him through Diane.
Yeah, and Diane met him through me, and Diane is actually now unfortunately cut me out. So to keep the gatekeepers happy, and I'm not saying everything Diane does is bad, and Diane liked me. I believe that Diane was trying to fight for me, but Daniel Burke got into Helga's head, and Helga's the top of the organization, and Helga gave the rule, I believe, right, to say, cut out DJL7, and, I think Diane's just trying to keep, her community together, but what y'all did to me was wrong. I'm an actual victim of war, and it's really hurting y'all, and, y'all need, the evidence about Nick Brown is out there, so I'm sorry to rant on, but I'm an actress for over 25 years. To make me a victim, that's a big mistake. And you look at the timeline of how Jeff Young. It's very good to know that Scott Ritter actually is the one who patched into Diane Sayre. Once again, Scott Ritter, I hope you watch this. I'm not saying you're all bad. You're being used. Okay? I'm not saying you can't be a part of the movement, but once again, where are the war victims? I'm Korean. The interference with my country's, governance is on the same timeline as Israel-Palestine. My whole life, I've been looking with a skeptical eye about what's going on. It's possible that you were targeted because of your position on the Iraq war, which I appreciate. But once again, you're not really particularly involved with Russia-Ukraine. You're not particularly involved with Israel-Palestine more than myself. You have something to say. I'm not saying you can't be a part of it, but it's not. You can be a part of the movement. You don't get to replace us. Yeah. Okay, Scott. So, once again, right, I've been disrupting it. Any event that he's been down here in New York City and Diane Sayre, I show up and I disrupt it. You could ask them. They know my face, right, Scott? This is not. I believe in second chances. I know a lot of people give me a hard time about it, right? Yeah, the people not happy about the charges against you are serious. People can reform. I work with a lot of people that's coming out of prison. I do believe in second chances. Don't be a party to my blackballing, Scott, Diane, Jose. I'm talking to you. Yeah. Otherwise, we could be cool. I'm not gonna get everything right either. It's impossible for any two people to agree on all positions or priorities. But you do not get to blackball me to get next to the celebrities. No, what? I'm in New York. They're not. Anything comes out here, I'm gonna touch it out here. You know how I do.
But the thing of it is, Scott is an international figure. I do shows with him, and it's seen all over the world. Okay.
He's also getting pushed by a lot of people. Kim Iverson, they're all Danny Haiphong. They're part of the Jimmy Dore network. So is Chris Hedges. And they're all they're working like gatekeepers in the Puff Daddy world to cover up, to silence grassroots activists. Where are the regional leaders? Right? Maybe you know candidates. What about the activist that's out here sweating, who's not running for office, who's actually doing this because we care about it? You're right, Scott Ritter isn't a national figure, but why is he actually blackballing me? The shows that have Scott Ritter on, you're actually an exception. Danny Haifong, once again, Convo Couch, Jimmy Dore, Diane Sayre, they're not allowed to have me on their shows by the gatekeepers. Wait till you find out. After you put this up, you're gonna get a call pretty soon. Ask Diane about me. Go ahead. Let's see what.
Okay.
I wonder. Ask Scott about me. There's actually a video of myself. I'll send you the video of myself disrupting the event where he actually came to New York City with Jimmy Dore and Do Dissidents. Do Dissidents is here in New York City. They're specifically Do Dissidents. What activism has they done? You know about Do Dissidents?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait,
why are their numbers so
wrestling,
high, and
right?
why can't they have me on? What have they achieved? What have they done as activists? Not anything near my category, but they're being lifted up by the gatekeepers in this world, just like Puff Daddy. I swear to God, it's not all clean. So once again, Scott Ritter, right? I'm sorry, man. I think you're being used. Yeah, you do have an international profile, sure, okay, but the fact of the matter is that you have not suffered from war like me. People don't want to believe it. I ran away from home at the age of 16, right? And look at the people that are, once again, the Arabics who are actually dealing with having problems in Europe. There's the generational effects of war. You don't think that the violence that all the veterans come home, I had a hard time in the war. Guess what? My parents, that was their home. What do you think happened to them? The violence seeped into their whole entire bodies. After the war, you have starvation, you have prostitution, you have little kids they find a grenade on the ground, they pull up, they get blown up. How many of my uncles are dead? How many of what about my mom and my aunts? You think they suffered from sexual exploitation? You know what I mean? But they don't want to hear about that from someone like myself. Oh man, no. You know what I mean? That's why I'm an activist. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this:
Yeah.
if you're not particularly, I'm going to use the word fond of either Diane.
No, I like Diane.
Okay, if you have your qualms with Diane, with Scott, with Jimmy Dore.
Oh, Jimmy Dore,
Right.
I hate his ass, but Diane
Okay,
Sayre,
okay,
I think
my
Scott's being used. Honestly,
my
I
question
feel bad
is-
for him.
Are they the only game in town? Can you do everything that you want to do on your own without interference from them?
I am, and I have a lot of accolades, and I have a lot of. Once again, I said I'm working with the longest long fingers for men in New York State history, Otis Johnson. I'm working with people with a direct tie to Jamal Muti, Jamu Sebaru. But there's just so you know, there's actually a cabal. There's actually a group of Jimmy Dore, Do Dissidents, Kim Iverson. They work as Chris Hedges, I'm sorry to say, right? Yeah, Cornell West. They actually suppress the grassroots activists. Where are the regional leaders from? What other, like, how many activists do you know in New York who's working on, and why aren't they on those shows? Brianna Joy Gray's part of it. Breaking Points is a part of it. They've all covered up these problems going on. I'm sorry to say, because they want to keep the relationships with each other. And also, Jill Stein will get more clicks on a video than myself. So even though she's oppressing actual indigenous people, oppressing war victims like myself, that's never going to be confronted, because Brianna Joy Gray, by having Jill Stein on, can get like 20,000, 30,000 clicks, and maybe she can raise up her subscription numbers by 1,000, 2,000. But actually talking to a war victim like myself, by talking to someone like Dak Rouleau, who's actually done work to actually talk to candidates, presidential candidates, and ask them about their stance on Assange, they've been erased.
Okay, let me interject a thought here.
Absolutely.
Back, I think it was maybe
I am doing my own thing, but the numbers are so small, and they're being, they're damaging. They're damaging me.
back in September 28th, when Scott Ritter did a big event in Kingston, New York. He wanted to have Jill Stein make a recording so that
I hate Jill Stein too.
where they could all work together.
Jill
and
Stein's part of that.
And I contacted Jill Stein's campaign, and they wanted nothing to do with Scott Ritter. And I thought, well, if she is so anti-war and anti-nuclear war, why doesn't she want to work with somebody else like Scott Ritter?
Look, Scott, she already has footage. If you look up Jill Stein and Scott Ritter, I actually have been blowing up, like, because Scott Ritter hasn't really talked to me, and I haven't really reached out to him so much. But I actually, because they got rid of me, just so you know, I play my violin on the train. I'm a beggar because they've actually done so much negative. They they did so much damage to my own career as an activist and actually as a YouTuber by blackballing me from everything. I'm not the only one that they damaged. Theo Chino, right, the guy who made the voter database free to the public, anything that's truly actually, taking on the system, they actually blackball that, right? Dak Rillo, right? There's a whole list of victims, right? Josh Haley, I have a whole list of people that have been shut out. So, Scott Ritter, okay, he has some. Jill Stein has done stuff with Scott Ritter, by the way, right? Which I've basically, attacked her for, right? So maybe that's why she backed off of it. But she's done stuff. If you type in Jill Stein and Scott Ritter, I'll actually just email you the video where they've done stuff together already. Once again, right? Jill Stein.
That's news to me.
I'll send you the video, but
Okay.
Jill Stein, just so you know, and Scott Ritter, look at Koreans right now. Aren't we on the front of nuclear war?
Correct.
Not only that, but Koreans and South Korean, North Korean troops are also in Russia and Ukraine fighting each other right now for someone else on another nuclear war front. But why have they blackballed me? Because I called out the abuse of Jimmy Dore, and not Jimmy Dore, I mean Nick Brana, who Jimmy Dore is defending, and the whole, media outlet they're protecting them, and they're inserting Jose Vega, right? Yeah, Scott Ritter. And I'm not saying Scott Ritter has no value, but they're inserting him specifically to normalize the sexual abuse of Nick Brana. So look, I would have a discussion with, I guess, but I'm really not there. The reason why Scott Ritter is being pushed into the movement, there's a lot of other people who could speak against nuclear war, like people like Korean Americans, but they're desperately looking for Korean American to replace me right now. But it's a dirty. It's been 2 years. They haven't found a Korean American yet. I'm not saying Scott can't say anything, right? And Jill Stein could work with Scott Ritter if she wants to, and she has. But what about indigenous people like Josh Haley from Green Party Alaska, who actually was a Green and elected as a Green to city council? Very rare, right? But they don't care about elections. They care about celebrity endorsements and people that can get them the views that can be exploited. They don't care. Scott Ritter, yeah, like, sure, okay, I'll email you this stuff. But Akeem Browder on I'm affording my last newsletter. Akeem Browder's running for mayor of New York City. He's not coming on my show because the Green, there's something called Green Renaissance, sovereign rights movement. There's other renegade Green groups that are calling out the hypocrisy of what's going on in the Green Party.
Mm-hmm.
So, once again, Jill Stein, she's on Breakthrough News. She's on Jimmy Dore. She's on, I've been going at Scott Ritter. And, unfortunately...
I've never seen Jill on Jimmy Dore's show. And Jimmy Dore really dislikes Howie Hawkins.
But while they will have squabbles between each other, they are in solidarity against the grassroots. None of them will actually talk about the state leaders from the People's Party. Not just New York, Washington, Texas, right? Colorado. They won't talk about the actual people doing the work. Who are the actual people, right? They'll talk about people with titles and positions but what about the volunteers from the Tulsi campaign? What about, right? Where are they? Do you know any of them? Right? Or are we all supposed to be just mindless automatons who are replaceable, if they're all about the grassroots and about by the people, for the people, of the people, where's the people at? Or is it all just a celebrity? Where are the people that have actually done the work in the Green Party, right? I've been to Green Party meetings. I know their personnel. I actually have a record of my work. If you type in the word Green Party, I have meetings with the Upper Hudson Green Party. I have more interviews with Green Party candidates than others. But Jill Stein won't come on my show. They're, I'm telling you, they will. Jill Stein and Jimmy Dore will squabble with each other, but they will be in solidarity against the workers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I'll just keep this in mind, and I'll see how it goes. Very interesting conversation.
Yeah, Scott, look, once again, I know you're probably going to watch this. I'm sorry about, right, disrupting your stuff. You're being used. Look into Nick Brana, right? Yeah, help a brother out, man. I'm a good ally. And Sarah, I respect anybody who does the work on the ground. I've been with Sarah at the Wall Street Bets event. That's, you know what I mean? I've been with her at the Assange events. I know she's paid her dues. And I respect, right, and you getting the 45,000 signatures, I was part of that, by the way. I know your personal, I know Dewey, I know, right, the people who is, I know the other people, I know people in your organization, Diane. I was with you at FDR's thing, alright? I still got love for you, Diane. But you do not get to cancel me for Jimmy Dore. You do not get to throw me in the trash when my whole entire body, life's work is because I'm a victim of war like you never have been. You, like, my people are on the brisk of, not only are we dying from, on the front of nuclear war, we're also, you know that the stress that we face from the war causes us to be hyper-competitive, which causes the lowest birth rates in the recorded history. You know that the South Koreans have the lowest birth rates in history? And we could die off just from that. What are the effects that war has on the people? Do you care? Do you care, Diane? Right? Why can't I talk about how war affects someone like myself? Instead, Nick Brana gets invited to your as a world leader, Jackson Hinkle. How is he suffered from war? You want to be at the Rage Against the War Machine? Yo, come on. Go have a reparations event and exclude black people. Go have a criminal justice reform event and exclude black people. Are you crazy? Diane Sayre, I respect your body of work. You've actually gotten the signatures. I love and respect anybody who does the work. Nothing can take away from that. I give credit where credit is due. But as a victim of war, I'm contacting every country in Asia and Africa and telling them I had a world peace event with people from Colombia, Kenya, Haiti. Right? You know Diane Sayre loves to talk about Russia and China. The big dogs, yeah? But I'm talking to people from Namibia, the victims of the Second Reich, which we don't recognize because why? Because they're African, right? We know there was a Third Reich, right? They say never forget. The Koreans faced their own Holocaust from the Japanese. Then right after that, right, did we get a chance to breathe and be celebrated? Oh no. They dropped bombs on us they dropped more bombs on Korea than they did during the whole entire World War II and the whole entire Pacific. They dropped more bombs on just Korea. And carpet bombed North Korea. Anything more than 2 stories high, I'm sure they did more than that. They bombed everything. Everything. How do you think my mom was from the North? How many times do you think my mom was sexually assaulted and raped? You know what I mean? But you gonna out here have your Rage Against the War Machine and exclude me for Nick Brana? You are crazy. You are crazy, and I swear to God, try to do an event in New York City, I will show up. But other than that, I respect your work, and I would love to work with you. Stop excluding me.
Okay.
Thank you, Cynthia.
I'm sure that Diane will take a look at this.
I like you, Diane. I do. And Jose Vega, you a strong voice, man. Talk to your peoples. You do not throw me in the trash for Nick Brana. Other than that, we could be at peace. Once again, I saw Diane recently at a public housing event. I could be a strong ally, Diane. Go talk to Helga, all right? Go talk to Helga. Tell her I'm a quality guy. I know it's Dan Burke set me up. I know he's from Harvard. I know he's a pretty boy. I know he's actual real LaRouchian. Okay, so respect, okay? I'm not a real LaRouchian. I'm okay with different philosophies. I'm not really and I respect what y'all have accomplished. Once again, y'all are amazing. Y'all are really doing the work. I think y'all threw an actual war victim in the trash for Jimmy Dore. I'm gonna tell all the other war victims in the world about this. It's so sad, Diane.
Okay.
Thank you, Cynthia. I'm so sorry, yeah.
Let's close on a positive note.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you for coming on. Yeah, I will still work with you, and I'm sorry to do all this stuff. I'm sorry about all the other stuff that I'm doing, and thank you for coming on. Yeah.
And can I plug my new holiday one more time?
Please do. Yeah. Once again, folks. Right. I encourage you to look at Cynthia's work. Just because she's working with some people that are blackballing me doesn't mean. Right? I think that, by the way, you should still subscribe to Diane Sayre. She's still having some interesting talks. You should still Scott Ritter. The charges are quite serious, but you should listen to everybody. Everybody has some value. No one should be in the trash.
Right.
And that includes me. So please, yeah, share your stuff. I hope you listen to Cynthia Pooler. I think she's very interesting. She's in Albany. She has a former candidate. She has unique experience, perspective, knowledge. Please share. Yeah, please.
Okay, I'm creating a holiday for candidates called National Candidate Recognition Day, because candidates who might not win after the election, they're kind of like tossed aside. And some of them could be brilliant. Some of them could have, such wonderful thoughts and things that could be said. And I want to use my Facebook uh, Facebook group to at least get the ball rolling on having these people recognized for the work that they've accomplished. So thank you. It's National Candidate Recognition Day, and thank you for having me on your platform.
I see you as a person of high value.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll talk again.
Thank you so much. God bless. All right, so I'm gonna